Live Network. This is Open Line.
Well, good evening and welcome into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long, glad to be along with you for the coming hour. Tonight's one of my favorite nights here on Open Line. This is Ask an Expert. Tonight, the expert is one of our very favorites, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. I've told Kevin often, sitting next to him for this hour, I feel like I'm in law school. I'm learning so much about the legal system, and I know that this is your opportunity to do the exact same thing. If you had those questions, those comments you've been wanting to ask, you've been thinking about, you've been wondering, you've talked over with your family, nobody can come up with the right answer, this is the way to do it. Call us on Open Line. The line is 737-7587. Our expert, one of the top lawyers in all of Tennessee, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. Kevin, great to be sitting next to you once again.
It's always good. You know, Chuck, one of the things when you're even doing the introduction, the truth is knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. It's power for you, for your family, for your associates at work, and those who do not get the knowledge, they are robbed. And so you said, well, if I had just known that, this is the great opportunity to try to learn something that will make a difference. Every one of us are held accountable to a standard of a legal knowledge. So through this program, there's no such thing as a dumb question or stupid question. The truth is that if you'll learn, you will be able to help someone else. And if you don't learn, there's an old saying, if you don't learn, you burn, and that will burn you.
That's exactly right. And you know, a lot of times people feel intimidated. They're thinking, well, I don't know who to ask, how to ask the question.
Come on, Chuck.
I mean, we've got so many subjects, so many topics that people call about, whether it's estate planning, whether it's a neighbor next door that's not the very nice neighbor, whether it's trying to go up against the big, companies, hospitals, insurance companies. You always feel like the little guy. But this is the area, I say all areas, where you guys have the experts. If they need to call, they call the Kennedy Law Firm. They get the answers they need. Yeah. And I'm always amazed that all the questions that come in here, you're able to answer all the questions.
You're so kind. The truth is, if you ever learn the theories of the law, you can hear the facts and you can throw a lot of options on the table. And the great lawyers have always been great thinkers. Those guys that don't get so angry. The lesson tonight is don't get angry. The anger is just like an acid that will eat you up. Cooler heads prevail. So if you had this conflict, don't get angry. Go get a lawyer. Talk about it. There's all kinds of ideas that come out, and just a little bit of knowledge sometimes can help you get rid of all your anxiety and say, okay, then this is a good plan. I'm glad I talked to you. Makes you feel better, and then you can move forward. And I've said this before, like the support staff at the Kennedy Law Firm. They're not lawyers. You'll hear them, they'll call in and they say, well, can I ask you? I'm not a lawyer. You'll need to ask the lawyer. But they are brilliant. And I spend half my time talking to them because all my lawyers are busy. And I say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Does this sound plausible? Is it reasonable? And boy, you put that little team together, we're rolling. I feel better, we move together.
Well, and you guys have been in business over 34 years.
35
years. I mean, that? Seriously, that's just it's a long time to be in business, but it's also a long time to get that reputation that people trust, they count on. One of the things too that I always enjoy about the show is I know a lot of people out there already, our line's getting very busy, so by the way, if you do have that question or comment, there's the number on your screen, 737-7587. But people call, they ask the question, but then we see people, out and about, and they'll tell us, they'll say, not only did you answer my question, but I watched the whole show because there were so many other questions that brought up things that I needed to know.
I think it's true. You may not have that specific question tonight about your child support or your child support or a order of protection or a gun permit, but sometime down the road you wish you knew something about it. And so I guarantee you that you can't live a week without having to run into a legal question.
Yep, that's exactly right. All right, well, as we said, the lines get very busy when Kevin is here, so if you do have that question or comment, make sure you give us a call as soon as possible. We'll get to as many questions as possible throughout this hour.
He's fast. He's really Speedy Gonzalez. The Bible says the wise seek the counsel of others. That's what you're doing tonight.
That's exactly right. So we're going to go right to our first caller. Lucy's on the line with us. Lucy, good evening. We're glad that you're watching this evening along with everyone else. What is your question or your comment for Kevin?
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. If you can just give me a second here, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy, has your law firm ever taken a case not to the state Supreme Court, but to the United States Supreme Court?
Now, on the Supreme Court, I took a case that, let me explain to you, when you go to the Supreme Court, one thing is they have to give permission that will allow you to go to the Supreme Court. So it's not an automatic right, and they call it like a writ of certiorari. The Sixth Circuit is the Court of Appeals in our district. It covers several states. And so I remember the last time that I was there, and yes, I'm admitted to the United States Supreme Court, but the last time that I was there, they had 3 elderly judges. So I'm standing there with these other lawyers, and I remember asking, I said, okay, guys, how do y'all run this show? This is their territory. We're not there many times. And one of they said, now, Mr. Kennedy, you argue the facts. These guys know the law, and they'll tell you the law. So we got up and we argued. And I'll tell you what else my experience was about that. We were fighting the government. The U.S. attorneys prepared all day and all night. Will there be a problem at 5 o'clock? And the judge said, brief it tonight. Well, have you ever heard of sleeping? Well, you know, that's the real way it is. And when they say 8 o'clock in the morning, what do they mean, Chuck?
8 o'clock in the morning.
And they will hold you in contempt.
That's
so
right.
The fascinating thing, very few people ever get to actually argue in front of the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's right. Now, Lucy, I wanted to double check too. Did you have an additional question?
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of figured that it went through the 6th District there, and then it might go there.
Yes.
But I'm just trying to find, maybe you can give me a referral.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm going to pick up a new hobby. I'm getting ready to retire full-time. And I'm thinking about going out and helping poor people and minorities register to vote. And under this new law they passed here in the Senate today, they said that you'll be criminally charged and fined.
Wow.
So I need to find me an attorney that, if need be, can take her all the way to the federal Supreme Court of this land. So is there anybody you can say? Is it a civil rights attorney? What kind of attorney I'm going to hang up?
Well, you're doing great. And
take your comments off the line, okay?
Okay. The truth is, and I salute people that want to get out and help others. You know, when you live your life, when it's all said and done, what did you really contribute to society? So I salute you for trying to help the poor and the downtrodden. And really, they're oppressed. The truth is, you can find almost anything about Googling civil rights lawyers. You can always go to the Tennessee Bar Association. You can always go to the National Bar Association and say, I'm looking for an expert lawyer in this field, and they'll give you a referral. But the truth of the matter is, some things that people don't realize, when you go to that 6th Circuit, you have to pay so much money. They have briefs, and they require them to be in their form. And you say, wait a minute. How do you get it in that form? You have to hire this company. Well, how much is that? When I tell you the figures, y'all going to say, well, how does a poor man get there?
There you go.
So I heard it said once, you know, everybody gets to justice, but sometimes it's very expensive. So as you go up, the court costs, you have to have your court reporter. Well, somebody's got to pay that court reporter, the stenographer. And so, yes, you have rights, but if you don't have your things together, they'll dismiss your case.
Okay, good to know. Lucy, thanks for calling in. Thanks for starting us off this evening. We're going back to the lines right now. Jessica is on the line with us. Good evening, Jessica. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I signed a divorce contract in 2015 in the state of California, and the contract stated that when the property was sold, that I would get a percentage of the sale, which is about $400,000.
Hello.
He sold it a year. Hello?
Now, that's good. I was getting ready to say hello, come in for that $400,000.
Right. So he hasn't paid. I fled the state pretty much because he threatened my life. So I know that there's like a breach of contract maybe,
Yes.
or because it wasn't a standard divorce.
You brought up a great subject, and I'll address it. You know, you can go to court, plead your case, win the court, get a judgment. And so when this property is sold, it's clear and it's a court order, I'm to get my portion, which we estimate to be near $400,000. Well, guess what? If that person doesn't honor the court order, they're in contempt. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to file another petition for contempt. We can ask for our attorney's fees, we can ask for our court costs, and we can ask for those. But what do you do, Chuck, if that guy sold it and he spent all the money and then he files a bankruptcy? We got a problem. You may have to fight that court out in the U.S. bankruptcy court.
All right, good to know. Jessica, thank you so much for calling in this evening. You know, one of the things, too, that we often find when you're here, Kevin, is the broad range of topics. And I had jotted down some from the last time that we were here.
Yeah.
So many areas, whether it's you're looking at criminal law, personal injury, whether you're injured in a car wreck, whether you're injured on the job,
yes,
family law, bankruptcy, there's so many different things that affect people at different times, different points in their lives. So kind of what's your advice when someone calls in and they're afraid that they have waited too long to call about that? Kind of, let's talk about the time frame.
Well, you know, I always love to mention this. In the law, everything's based on Latin law. We came under the common law, and there's an old maxim that says laches. What does that mean? It means don't sit on your rights. So I really want no one. So what does that mean? Well, we put it off, and 1 week goes into 2, and 2 into 3, and many times you can have a great case, and you say, Kevin, I've got a year in Tennessee to file that. No, because the other side is going to say you didn't seek medical treatment in the first few days. They're going to maintain that you weren't hurt from the accident, and then they won't offer anything. So the best advice is to take a proactive approach. On my lit up sign on Wilma Rudolph Boulevard in Clarksville, it said we believe in a proactive approach. And I've heard some lawyers say, well, Chuck, don't worry, if you get indicted, then come see me. Wrong answer. If I know they're after Chuck, I'm moving on them. Gentlemen, what is this all about? Let me tell you, Chuck is not guilty of this. So we would take a proactive approach. If Chuck had an automobile accident tonight, someone was killed, we know tomorrow that was a serious accident. Chuck needs to come to my office. And the insurance company calls us, we'd like to get a tape recorded statement. He should say, I'll refer these questions to my attorney, Kevin Kennedy. Let us do this. You know, in the old days, there were so many times that you could trust an insurance adjuster and you could trust certain people. These days are a new day. I hope everybody's listening. And you know who you have to protect? Yourself, your children, and your household. If you work at a job, you don't want them all suing your job.
That's exactly right. And you know, and the other thing that you bring up is you were talking about it as far as when someone starts asking you questions, whether it's an insurance adjuster, whomever that person may be.
Yes.
You've often said, though, the best thing is do not talk. Let your legal counsel do the talking.
The truth is, no one can make you talk. Now, sometimes they'll come in and say, well, you're bringing all these people in. Listen, they have an agenda. The people, they have a job. Their agenda is not to protect us, not to protect our assets, our reputation. So again, who's going to protect you? You will, and any lawyer that you have. So again, I was talking to some people today. I said, if I were in your shoes, I would hire a lawyer. If you were my son, how much better can you be? And of course, my boys are both doctors. They're smart, but I've been brainwashing them for years. Fellas, even when they were young, and if there'd been call my daddy. And they said, well, guess what? You're 18. Why do you need your daddy? That's a game we play,
right?
Because I can get there and say what's going on. And you know, even when I was robbed, and they came in, they said, "What kind of gun was that?" And I said, "Well, it was a black gun. It was an automatic gun." And I said, "Well, have y'all got the gun?" And they turned around and they said, "We're asking the questions." Well, all of a sudden, did a flag go up? Mm-hmm. You say, "Wait a minute, are we on the same team? Or are y'all trying to interrogate me?"
Right. It's good to know. All right, back to our lines right now. Countess is with us. Countess, we're glad that you're watching this evening. And do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
I have a question.
All right, let's hit it.
Okay. I am an only child. I'm 54 years old, and I take care of my mom and my dad. And they're 77 and 79. Now, my question is, do I need to get a power of attorney to take care of my mom?
The answer quick is yes. That is yes. And there's several power of attorneys. I hate to cut you off, but I want to get on that so quick. You need a medical power of attorney. Everybody listening, you need a medical power of attorney, and you probably need a durable power of attorney. What is the durable? If Chuck was my brother and he became incompetent, a durable power of attorney would allow me to get his checks, pay his rent, pay his house, and without that, we are hung. It's a problem. You'd have to go to a conservatorship. On a medical power of attorney, if he was in a real bad car wreck and they say, well, it's life or death, does anybody have a medical power of attorney? It would make a difference. And if we were brothers, our mother would want me to have it. I'd want him to have it if he was my brother. Make a decision, and you got to give it to people you trust. So, yes, ma'am, everybody listening should have that for your family members, because if you don't, you're going to run into a real bad problem.
Okay, thank you very much, because that was one of my problems. One person was telling me, no, because you're our only heir. And then somebody was telling me, yeah, because the legal legalities. So
yes.
That helped me out a whole lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And when in doubt, it's better to have that document and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate the callers thus far this evening. Don't forget, if you do have one of those questions or comments, just give us a call. The phone number is right there on your screen, 737-7587. We are going to take a short break. When we return, more legal questions from Kevin Kennedy.